Hello and welcome to the CinemATL podcast for April 2018. The CinemATL podcast is a monthly podcast that examines the world of entertainment through the lens of local Atlanta filmmakers. That would be us. I am one of your hosts, Michael D. Friedman.
And I'm one of your other hosts, Martin Kelly.
And we are...
What?
Wild Stallions.
Okay.
So welcome to the podcast. If you like this podcast and you want to share it, please do so. We encourage that. We also encourage your feedback. So if you'd like to, you can tweet us at CinemATL or at myself at Badger33.
Or you can tweet or IG me at Marte _ real one.
It seemed like you forgot for a second. It was just a dramatic pause. That was what it was. It was Marte _ real one. But Martin's hip with IG, so you can get him at the IG as well. So
or Twitter.
Or Twitter. We encourage you to comment on Facebook as well, or go to cinematl.com and comment there, or under the YouTube video, or wherever you can comment. We want to hear your feedback. Okay, so for those of you that haven't been with us before, and those of you that have been with us before, you have to listen to this anyway. But
we're going to recap it anyway.
The structure of our podcast, we normally start out with some industry news.
Right.
And we talk about...
And we talk about mainly geared towards Atlanta and the South, what's going on here. Yeah,
and what's going on within, the big productions here. But we also want to hear about the smaller productions too. So if you have something going on, let us know about it.
Please do.
And then from there, we move on to the top 3, which we normally tie into our movie review of the month.
Yeah, and this month, our top 3 is going to be comedy sequels.
Comedy sequels.
So that gives you a hint.
Gives you a clue.
That our big movie review is
Titanic.
Is a comedy sequel, yes.
Titanic
2. Electric Boogaloo.
Actually, it is Super Troopers 2, which came out unironically on 4/20.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, we normally jump into a technique topic. Some months we have them, and some months we don't. This month we actually do have a technique topic to discuss.
And it is usually related back to the movie that we review, and this time our technique topic is going to be comedy writing.
Yep. And we pretend to be writers, so
we pretend to be writers?
Comedic things on occasion,
okay.
So I do have some knowledge of comedy writing. And
yes, I've heard of it.
So do you. So hopefully we can impart some knowledge.
Hopefully. I hope so.
Or you'll just have to listen to us talk.
Yeah, exactly.
And then every month we wrap it up with the movie game.
Yeah, and the movie game is just you'll hear the rules later, but it's just a sort of testing each other. Yeah.
Mano battle of movie cast knowledge.
Correct. So
that's
very important stuff. Very important stuff.
And Martin usually succeeds in that, but
you succeed.
I succeed in failing. So welcome to you newbies if you're joining us for the first time, and welcome to those that are continuous listeners.
And we appreciate that, and we appreciate the feedback that we have gotten, either publicly or privately, about what you like and what you don't like about the podcast. And so please keep.
So tell us what you want, what you really, really want.
Exactly.
Zig a zig.
Zig zig zig.
All right, on that note, we're going to jump into some industry news.
All right. So, industry news. And so we do have a format to the industry news.
Format?
Yeah, well, sort of. We basically
do this willy-nilly?
We just throw it out there. Because I can imagine us doing it like that and being, oh, wait, I forgot to say this. But what we usually do is we talk about movies or TV shows that are about to come out. That have been filmed in Atlanta.
Yes.
And then after that, we go into stuff that is filming currently in Atlanta that you need to be, put on your radar for later.
Yep. And then we occasionally throw in some other news and nuggets.
Yeah, every now and then we do a larger story.
But the gist is what's going on around town.
And so you really want to listen to this, pay attention, especially to the ones that are coming out, because this first movie you might miss.
Yeah, you might not have heard of this one.
Yeah,
it's a little underground film. I have trouble pronouncing this one. It's Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers.
No, it's
Infinity.
Avengers Infinity War. No, but you all know this one is filmed in Atlanta. Yes. Avengers Infinity War is coming out this Friday.
Hot off the heels of Black Panther, which was filmed in Atlanta as well.
Yeah, so we'll have to see whether it can reclaim the Marvel throne or just superhero throne in general. I think Black Panther's just blowing everything out of the water as far as box office goes.
Yeah, amazing. And I guess this sort of proves that the appetite for the Marvel Universe is still, well, we'll see how well Infinity War does, but the fact that Black Panther did so well, I think it proves that the appetite is still high.
If you're looking at the pre-sales, it even beat Black Panther's pre-sales, so, right. I mean, it's very high indeed.
Yeah, definitely.
Another film that's coming out, a little bit lesser, blockbuster status, but it also stars somebody from the Avengers franchise.
Yeah, Jeremy
Renner. It's a movie called Tag, and it's a comedic action film, I guess you could call it. It also stars Ed Helms, John Hamm, Jake Johnson, some other
Isla
fine
Fisher.
folks. Yeah. And
Hannibal Buress.
Yeah. And it's shot in Atlanta. It's about a group of friends who have played a game of tag for 30 years. And it looks like a lot of fun.
It does, definitely.
But it seems like it's also a little bit action-packed because Jeremy Renner actually broke his arms during the filming. Wow. Like both of his arms he broke during the filming of this accident. There was an accident on set.
But did he break them both in the same accident?
Yes, apparently. Yes, stunts. Which affected his Marvel duties as well. They had to delay the filming of Tag, but it's coming out on June 15th, and it looks funny to me.
Yeah, it definitely does look funny. The trailer's a lot of fun.
And then the third thing we have for the segment is...
There's actually a fourth thing.
There's a fourth thing.
Before we talk about this one, Life of the Party, Melissa McCarthy's movie, which did film here in Georgia as well. And so, have you seen the trailer for that?
Don't know. I saw a trailer for a Melissa McCarthy movie, but I don't remember the title of it. So maybe I have. What's it about?
Life of the Party. It's about her going back to college.
No, okay. I have not seen the trailer.
Wow, you're a big Melissa McCarthy fan.
I like Melissa McCarthy, yes, but
I
saw a trailer for another film that she's in where she
yes, that was not filmed in
writes.
But yeah, can you please forgive me?
Please forgive me, or something like that.
Yeah. But no, Life of the Party, a broad comedy about a recently divorced mother of a college-age freshman daughter who decides she's going to go to college herself. Okay. So
that could be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
I like Melissa McCarthy. I think she's really funny.
And so, yeah, that brings us to the fourth.
The fourth one is not a movie.
There's a whole another one, but we can wait. I think we got time for
There's a lot of stuff going on.
I know.
But
I just there's a few that I just remembered. But we'll go straight to the one.
We just said we had notes and we were organizing. Yet you're jumping all around.
I know.
Crazy. Anyway, the third one or the fourth one is Cobra Kai.
Yes.
Which is something we mentioned a couple podcasts ago, but it's finally coming out here.
Yeah, and for those who are unfamiliar with Cobra Kai, basically this is a continuation of characters from the original Karate Kid.
Yes.
And so Ralph Macchio and
Johnny.
Don't know. From the Cobra Kai's.
What's his name? Zebka or something?
Zabka. That's what it is.
Don't know what his first name is.
Yeah, right. Zabka, though.
But yeah, Johnny
from the Cobra Kai.
It's a comedic take on them, like him deciding his life has reached bottom and he decides that he's going to reopen the Cobra Kai dojo. Much to Ralph Macchio's character's dismay.
Yes.
But that comes out on May 2nd on YouTube Red, and I don't know whether they follow the Netflix model where they just binge everything, or if they do it like weekly.
I don't know as many people. I don't know all that many people with YouTube Red, so I don't know.
And if you don't have YouTube Red, apparently Fathom Events is doing some screenings of the first 2 episodes in select theaters near you. So you want to check that out online and see if you can get tickets if you're really interested.
For sure.
So that's what's coming out. And or do you have the other ones that you?
No. I mean, I got another one, but let's move forward. Let's move forward.
Let's talk about what's filming right now. There's a BET miniseries coming out, and it's a follow-up to one that did last year.
Yeah, the new edition miniseries.
Yeah, this one is the Bobby Brown story.
Wow.
So,
is this a miniseries too, or is just?
It is a miniseries.
Oh wow.
Yes.
So that's interesting, and I wonder. I don't know. Just a personal comment is I don't know if he needs a miniseries, but I guess he does because he had quite an adventure after he left New Edition. So
yeah, I wonder if they'll talk about the comedy sequel Ghostbusters 2, which he did part of the soundtrack to.
Oh, he did
to tie into.
He did one of sequel. Definitely, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good call. But and of course his marriage to Whitney Houston and their relationship and
and his daughter Millie Bobby Brown.
No, that's not his daughter.
No?
No.
I thought it was.
No, Millie Bobby Brown is not his daughter. Unfortunately, his actual daughter was Bobby Brown.
Joke about what happened to her, but yeah.
But yes.
I just think of Bobby Brown every time I hear Millie Bobby Brown.
Sure, absolutely.
Anyway.
And speaking of, that's actually prepping to go back into production for its 3rd season.
Yes. Prepping. It's not there yet.
It's getting close. It's getting close.
But speaking of another Netflix series, Ozark is filming season 2 here in Atlanta, so that's on the radar.
Mm-hmm. And that's starring Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Sorry. No. I'm about to say his sister's name.
Justine Bateman.
Yeah, and Jason Bateman and Laura Linney, and that's a really good series. I've seen only about 5 episodes of the first.
Jason Bateman was in Teen Wolf 2, which is a comedy sequel as well.
Will it make our list?
Will it make the list? And then a couple of new movies that are filming right now too is Goosebumps Slappy Halloween, which is a sequel. Speaking of sequels, to the Goosebumps movie, and it stars Jack Black, who was also in the original and also seems to be making his home in Atlanta because
lately.
The trailer just came out for the film The House with a Clock in Its Walls, which he starred in, which is also filmed here as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's also stars Cate Blanchett and Owen Vaccaro, who is a local young actor from the Daddy's Home
series. Movies, yeah, and he's done some independent stuff. I've seen some of the people that I
no doubt about
recognize and some stuff with him. So
exactly.
Cool. It's really good. The young talent. They're pulling the young talent from Atlanta. That's great.
I'd love to see that.
But yeah, mentioning Jack Black, but Jack Black was here for Jumanji, so it seems to be like
he's like
setting up shop here.
I mean, he's racking them up the titles. He's getting close to, not that close, but getting
the Rock levels.
Getting close to
or Kevin Hart levels.
Kevin Hart and the Rock levels of Atlanta residency.
Well, he's actually going to be performing in Atlanta at the Shaky Knees Festival. Tenacious D.
Tenacious D, wow.
So that'll be interesting.
They got a new album, or are you going to be?
I think it's just them playing their stuff, but I don't know. Okay. I'll be there anyway.
Interesting.
And then finally, a remake coming out called Superfly.
Yes, Superfly is filming now in Atlanta. I think it's set in Atlanta. That's my guess. But who directed this?
Director X.
Director X. Oh my God!
No one knows who Director X is.
I did see the television spot for it.
Yeah.
I think during the NCAA playoffs or something like that, and it looked very slick. Well,
Director X is basically a video director, comes from that field, and you can actually learn who Director X is if you just go on IMDb. And
good tip.
They've got his real name there, and you can see a picture of him.
It's a good tip if you want to know about Director X. IMDb.
So we encourage you if you're interested in becoming part of the film scene here, and if you're looking for crew positions, you can learn a lot more about these things that are filmed, these shows that are filming right now by going to the Help Wanted hotline
at Georgia.org.
Georgia.org. Learn all about what's out there, what crew calls there are available, and you could find yourself working on one of these sets.
Yeah, you might be. You might be.
So that's what's been filming and is coming out and everything. Yeah. And so it was a fairly major Atlanta event that happens every year. The Atlanta Film Festival was just recently just wrapped
this
past week. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I was under the weather. I had the flu, and I did not make any of the Atlanta Film Festival.
We got to get something to strengthen your constitution.
I've got a great constitution.
But you've been ill.
I got 18 constitution.
Okay, but
that's my D&D reference. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I rolled 18 in my constitution.
Well, it don't seem like it because you've been ill a bit lately.
Yeah, so I've been fine. I'm good.
Okay,
except for.
And I got to go to the festival,
yeah,
but not that much. So I did go to a few events, but there's two movies I did want to talk about because they really, struck a chord with me personally. One of them is called Prison Logic, and Prison Logic is actually written and directed by Romany Malco, who you may remember from Think Like a Man movies, and maybe even from 40-Year-Old Virgin.
40-Year-Old Virgin, that's where I know him from. Yeah,
and he kind of
he's great in that. He's really good.
Makes the movie actually for me.
He's one of the buddies that works at the store with him.
Yeah, and so he actually is making a feature, his first feature, based on a character he created for like Funny or Die or HBO or something. And it's called his character's name is Tijuana Jackson. He's a convict who's an aspiring life coach, and so it was well done. It also stars Regina Hall and they were both at the festival. They were both at the festival, which was really cool to have them after the film meet and greet. I didn't get to meet Regina Hall, but I did get to meet Romany Malco, and he was so gracious and grateful that everyone came out to see his film. Wow. And these two, to me, they are completely underrated. I mean, Regina Hall is brilliant. Romany Malco is brilliant. They really should be in a lot more movies than they are, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, from what I've seen of him, and especially like 40-Year-Old Virgin, like I agree, he's one of the funniest things in that film. So,
yeah, and even with I know Think Like a Man is Kevin Hart's show basically, but he's fantastic actor.
I've seen him in some other like more minor roles too. But,
right,
he's always does a great job and is really funny.
He used to be on Weeds too.
Okay,
yeah. So. But that film I liked a lot, and so be on the lookout for that. It was actually not something like you would think, high profile person like that would be invited. He actually submitted his film to the festival.
Really?
So yeah, that was interesting.
What's the name of the film again?
It's called Prison Logic.
Prison Logic.
So be on the lookout for that. And then there's another film that I really want to talk about. It's called Dead Pigs, and it is a movie from China. The director, Kathy Yan, actually is been selected just right before the festival to be the director for the Harley Quinn DC movie. And she was at the festival as well. And this movie is really terrific. It's based on true events in China. Dead pigs, basically had like a plague, and dead pigs started filling the river in Beijing. And it surrounds like stories is around a few characters and how they interact and intertwine. And one of the actresses is fairly famous, Chinese actress Vivian Wu, and the other one of the other actors is Mason Lee, who's an American actor, but he's been in a couple things. He's actually Ang Lee's son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he, the whole cast is absolutely terrific. But it's a nice little story. It's kind of those indie type films where it's just story about 5 people's lives and how they intersect, and it was really well done. And Kathy Yan seemed to be very astute on film, her film bona fides or whatever you want to call it. But so it was great that she was there too, because obviously she's getting the reins to a big action comic book.
So do you know if that film has been picked up for distribution, or either of those films been picked up for distribution?
No, I don't know their status at the moment, but I would expect Dead Pigs probably have art house run in the States, and then maybe end up on cable as well. It is it's Mandarin. It's also like Beijingese, which I didn't know was a thing, but apparently it's its own dialect, and then a little bit of English. Okay. So I would expect an art house release. Now I don't know about Prison Logic. I don't know what would become of that, but
I would seem to think that would get picked up somewhere
You
just
would
because
think,
of
yeah,
the
you
name,
would
the
think.
talent
Definitely.
attached to it. But
definitely. But those are the highlights that I other than meeting all the people, which is always fun, which is why I like to go to the festival. And too bad you weren't able to go.
Yeah, I mean, even if I wasn't sick, I was busy working as well, unfortunately. But that, in the past, I have been able to take off of work and enjoy the festival. It's always a really good time to just live the life of a filmmaker for a week. For us to have day jobs that don't get to get away, it's a fun experience, and I do recommend people check it out. And unfortunately, we didn't really mention it in our last podcast, but it was an oversight on our part. But we do encourage people to check out the Atlanta Film Festival.
Yeah, and it's great to see all the local filmmakers in the community again. For like sometimes it's the one time you get to see it each year. So it was good when I was out there.
Yeah. So we'll just keep an eye on it next year. And
Definitely.
We'll make sure to mention it next year. Just an oversight on our part. All right. So that's it for the news. Why don't we just go into the top 3?
Yeah, top 3. So, top 3. This time we are doing, in honor of Super Troopers 2, which is a comedy sequel, we're doing our top 3 comedy sequels.
Yes.
And, again, we always explain this, but this is not necessarily objectively the best 3 movies. This is our favorites.
Our favorite comedy
our favorites
sequels.
in the categories. So.
Yes.
So, and we always debate how we're going to present the list. So, how do you want to do it? I suspect we have at least one overlap just because of a reference you made earlier.
Okay. Well, maybe.
But we'll see.
Let's just do, do we want to do just top, we'll start at 3 and we'll name our 3.
Let's do it.
I had a tough time determining which one I wanted to put at number 3. I had debate against Army of Darkness, which is kind of a it's a comedy sequel to a horror film, and Airplane 2, the sequel.
Wow.
And I'm gonna go with, for my third slot, I'm gonna take Airplane 2, the sequel.
Solid. I think that's a solid pick. And now I'm thinking like, why didn't I think of that? But I didn't put Army of Darkness on just because of the horror aspect.
Yeah.
I didn't really think of it as a comedy sequel.
Well, I think I consider Army of Darkness to be a comedy, not a horror movie.
Yeah, but the first
movie one was a horror movie.
Yeah. So that's why it kind of gets iffy. So my number 3 is a kind of unconventional sequel. It's This Is 40.
Oh, okay.
Which is a sequel.
Thematic sequel. Kind of.
No,
I guess it does have. It has one character.
No, it doesn't have one character. It has several characters.
Okay. Anyway, yes, it is. It is a sequel.
Okay.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay.
But okay, we'll discuss. We'll discuss later. My number 2 slot is 22 Jump Street.
Ow! That was close. That was close on mine. Very close. My second place is Hot Shots Part 2. Which, obviously was a sequel to Hot Shots.
Obviously. Yes. Okay. And then for the grand prize for me is Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Ah, okay. See, I thought you were hinting at something earlier, which was different. And Bill and Ted's very, very cool. That was near my list too. It was, I juggle mine. Like it's the very last minute I have to decide. So, my number 1 is actually Ghostbusters 2.
Ghostbusters 2.
So
yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting though, because it's like coming up with a list of the best comedy sequels is a little bit of a challenge, because just traditionally comedy sequels just don't do as good. They're just not as good as the originals.
Sure.
Usually.
Yeah. I mean, ordinarily, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, even like a film like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, I would still say Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a better movie, and I would say Ghostbusters is a better movie than Ghostbusters 2.
Sure.
So it's kind of funny that
I agree with you in that sense for both of those films.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the reason we probably put them on is because they're close enough to the quality.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can kind of talk about why we chose for Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey for me was that I did like the fact that it wasn't just a rehash of the Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure. It wasn't about time. It was about time travel, but not in the same vein as it wasn't like another adventure finding, classic people from history. It was more about their deal with death and trying to, beat death at his own game and stuff like that. That was brilliant for me when that came out. I love that.
I love that, and I loved. Here's why it's certainly, worthy to be in the same conversation as the first film. The first film might be a better film, but the death stuff is way funnier than anything in the first movie. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that makes the film. There's other stuff in it that's questionable.
Right.
It's not as good. There's some of this there's a little bit of goofy stuff in it. The whole station stuff is kind of bizarre, but the whole thing with Death is great.
Death is like some of the funniest
William
stuff.
Sadler, who plays the character, is just so great as Death. And then the other thing about it is also when it came out, I'm a huge Faith No More fan, so the fact that Jim Martin's in it from Faith No More was when it came out, I was like instantly like, yeah, that's awesome, man, nice, cool. Nice. But how about for your number one for Ghostbusters?
Well, Ghostbusters 2 is it's a movie that is, original Ghostbusters got a lot of nostalgic, goodwill from me. Mm-hmm. I was so young when I saw it, and it was so good, and the talent associated was so good. Now, Ghostbusters 2 is probably not as good a film.
Yeah,
but it's really good actually. It does come close to the original in terms of entertainment value.
Yeah.
And so that's why I just loved going on that adventure a second time with those characters. And so it's just again.
I think Ghostbusters 2 gets kind of a bad rap, but if I'm sitting here trying to think of why it gets a bad rap, and it's not. There's some great stuff in Ghostbusters 2. The whole Vigo the
Carpathian, and his
sidekick
Peter McNichol, who was brilliant in that one, and so it just sort of added because they had all the original cast that you liked from the first one, and then they added these sort of really funny new people that were maybe funnier than the side characters in the first movie, and so that's why I really had a put it high on my list in terms of an achievement as a comedy sequel.
And so for me, my second pick, 22 Jump Street. One of the reasons I really like 22 Jump Street is it makes fun of the fact that it's a sequel.
Yes. No, definitely.
And it's so self-referential on the fact that it's a sequel. And up to the point of them having to move the police station across the street to get the 22 Jump Street
that was awesome.
address, and and the end credits, how they go crazy with all the sequels they could and the first one worked really well as a reboot of a TV series and Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum are just really good comedic pair together.
Oh yeah, they were great, and they kept it going.
And they kept it going in this, and I thought there was even some more funnier ancillary characters in it as well.
Well, that movie has the distinguishing characteristic that it was the first movie that Ice Cube was ever funny in. He was not even funny in the first of that series, but he finally was funny in that movie, which was an achievement, in my opinion.
They should get an award.
It should. That should be like the next special award is achievement by making Ice Cube funny.
Special achievement in filmmaking.
That's me.
So for number 2 for you,
Hot Shots Part 2.
Hot Shots Part 2.
Hot Shots Part 2, and you mentioned Airplane Part. Airplane 2.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be on the list instead, but because Hot Shots Part 2 is very similar, because obviously the same filmmakers are part of that storyline, and it just Hot Shots Part 2 was just hilarious. I don't know how you don't expect much out of that film, but it was really funny.
I do remember liking it better at the time than Hot Shots when it came out, but I don't. that series, while it was funny, it never really connected with me like Airplane did. I think just because Airplane was kind of the original, like, kind of just throw constant jokes on the wall and see what sticks.
Well, I think Hot Shots Part 2, even Airplane was a broad parody of like disaster movies, right?
Movies, yeah.
Whereas Hot Shots Part 2 ushered in the era of sort of and what we're used to now is topical homage comedy.
Yeah.
Like it was Top Gun parody, and it was threw in I think bunch of other parodies.
That's where that whole kind of genre has gone off the rails to me. Mm-hmm. Is it's become too topical and not as classic as
I think you're right. But just at the time, it was unique.
And we'll talk about this during the comedy writing segment. What I hate is things that just reference things, and they think that by just referencing something, it's funny. But just referencing something does not make it funny.
I agree, but this was sort of the pioneer of that, and it was different for its time.
Yeah.
And it was trying something new to be a little more topical.
Whereas, Airplane and Airplane 2 were the parody of, Airport 77, I think was the direct parody of it. But it wasn't really that. It was more about, let's see how many funny jokes we can get in here. And it wasn't more about, it wasn't just a constant parody of all those types of movies. It was, the plot was set around that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And the rest of it was jokes.
But Hot Shots had a lot of that same elements to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It did.
And so, like, they're kings of cramming 100 jokes into 3 minutes,
one of my favorite scenes ever is Airplane 2 was the scene where they're in it's the trial scene where he's talking about, he's like, talking about Macho Grande, and like he's like, Buddy didn't make it, and he's like, oh, Buddy didn't make it, and he's like, no, Buddy held it together, but how he survived is like, oh, so how he survived. It's that scene is just like so awesome. So and it doesn't really have much to do with the movie, but that scene is so classic. We were running out of time, but I already talked about my 3, but your third one.
This is 40.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that film, and I thought it was a unique perspective to take to follow 2 of the supporting characters from Knocked Up, and into a sequel, and they retained more than just those 2. There was quite a few.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't. The reason I just said thematic sequel, I mean, it does. It is, but it's more than a thematic sequel because there have been other things that have been said to be thematic, like 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is not to me is not a sequel.
Not at all.
That's what at least has characters that overlap. But to me, it's not like a true sequel and like, oh, we're getting the gang back together.
Totally. I mean, it's not a true sequel. That's what I'm saying. It's a unique sequel, though. And I thought, it was just really entertaining and focusing on Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann, and their continuation of their story. I thought was really good.
That's all the time we have for the top 3.
That's it.
Sorry, we have to cut it off. We're going to go into the big movie review now.
All right. Big movie review.
Big movie review. Yes. Super Troopers 2.
This is really a big movie. It actually did better. It did better at the box office than expected.
But for us, it's the big movie review.
Yeah, well, it's the big review.
It's the big review. Not the movie's not
the
big.
Movie's arbitrary.
Well, the movie did like something like 15 million at the box office this week.
No, it did. It did better than expected for sure.
Well, let's just see. So, Super Troopers 2 is basically the sequel to it's a cult classic sequel. So it's a sequel to the 2001 film Super Troopers, which I saw it out in Sundance when I was out there in 2001.
I didn't see it.
It was a midnight screening.
I was at that Sundance, but I didn't see that at Sundance.
I went and saw it there, and I had no clue what it was about, nothing like that.
I saw it when it came out.
Looked funny, and so I went and saw it, and I thought it was hilarious. It's one of my favorite comedy films, actually. I really like the Broken Lizard crew. I like what they've done with their other movies that probably weren't received as well as Super Troopers. Beer Fest was probably one of the most well-known ones as well. But they also did like Club Dread, which didn't get as good reviews, but I thought was still pretty funny. As a parody of like murder teen movies. But anyway, so the plot of Super Troopers 2 is not really anything too crazy. We talk about comedy sequels and like how A lot of them are kind of just rehashes of the what worked in the previous one, which is why I think some people think that they fail as their own movies. So I mean, this is no different. Where the concept of this is that they're back to being troopers again after ending the last one as not troopers.
Yeah.
Because there's been a border dispute with Canada, and
well,
it's not really a dispute,
it's not presented as a dispute, but it's presented as
the markers were incorrect.
There's going to be a change in the actual borders in Vermont, right?
The
Vermont patrolmen, which these guys are, have to be the temporary patrolees for the...
And it's to help transition them to becoming American citizens instead of Canadian citizens. And once again, there is a subplot of drug smuggling and drugs and arms smuggling, which was just like the first one. Right. But honestly, the whole plot is kind of inconsequential to the film itself. To me, it's more about the characters and how their dynamics work together, and the crazy shenanigans that they pull as these like crazy state troopers.
State troopers.
So I mean, like, to me, there wasn't much new ground in this, but I personally still enjoyed it. I think, and if you, I mean, based off the plot of the film, you basically know what they're going with. There's a lot of Canadian jokes, and so it's basically like Super Troopers 1 with a bunch of Canadian jokes
into it. Yeah.
So does that make a good movie or not? I don't know. I don't know. And just so, I mean, once again, it's directed by Jay Chandrasekhar, who is one of the Broken Lizard
Troopers. Direct most of their films?
He's directed all their films, and he's actually done a lot of TV directing recently. A lot of big shows. So he's really accomplished director as regards to comedic shows, and he's also done other movies, like they did Dukes of Hazzard. He did that.
Yeah, that's right.
Things like that. And then some of the other stuff that's interesting in this one is that they get a cameo by a famous actor. Rob Lowe is in this.
Is that more than a cameo?
Funny. Well, I mean, it like in the first one, it was Linda Carter was like the big get,
right?
Like, well, the fact that they have Brian Cox doing like all this crazy stuff is funny. Is a kind of a get as well, because Brian Cox you don't think of as a comedic actor,
right?
He's really pretty funny in these films.
Did you have a couple of cameos right at the beginning?
Yeah, there's some cameos at the beginning.
Yeah,
I won't ruin it.
No, I won't say who they are. Should have been in it more.
Yeah, that was pretty funny seeing it, but yeah. So yeah, what was your overall opinion, Mark?
I really didn't like it much.
Really?
I mean, I remember liking the original Super Troopers, but this one, it was pretty flat for me.
I mean, I personally enjoyed it. It's definitely not as good as the first one, and I wouldn't say it's a good movie. But I did enjoy seeing the characters again after 17 years of being off the screen.
There were some funny things in the film. There was a few funny things. I mean, Rob Lowe's actually highlight of
Rob Lowe was great, and I personally thought the Mounties were the other part that I liked about it a lot.
Oh yes, I especially liked one of the Mounties.
Tyler Labine, Will Sasso, and Hayes MacArthur are the Mounties.
Yeah, one of them reminded me a lot of the guy from Blockers. What's his name? Oh, he's been in a lot of movies lately, like Neighbors. I'm blanking on his name, but one of the Mounties reminded me a lot of him, and he was really funny most of the time.
Well, yeah, I remember Tyler Labine was in the show Reaper. Do you remember that show Reaper?
I do remember the show barely.
Yeah, I liked him in that, and he was also in the most recent season of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
And I haven't seen any of that.
And then Hayes MacArthur was in. Speaking of Airplane and Hot Shots, he's in that show Angie Tribeca.
Oh,
which is
it is similar to that.
Very similar to Airplane and Hot Shots. And then Will Sasso is a guy he's a comedic guy. He was in like Mad TV and a bunch of other things.
Yeah, he was also played Curly in
the Three Stooges movie.
Yeah.
So I thought they were really funny together.
They were.
And to me, I think that's what I don't know. I'm a fan of Canadian, like,
Humor, yeah.
No, it's not really Canadian humor. It's like making fun of Canadians. But like, I don't know. I just kind of appreciate the Canadian culture. So it's funny to me when they make references to like Rush and Bare Naked Ladies, and
Right.
hockey, and
Right.
like. I think I was like a Canadian soul to me, so I think that's why I think.
Maybe you do.
I think Canadians can laugh at themselves, and I think that's why it's funny that they're making fun of Canadians and like how they're like a lot of sorry jokes.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And then what was funny though is when the Canadians made fun of the American accent.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Sorry.
So I mean, there's some good stuff.
There's some good stuff.
But I would agree. I mean, it's not as fun as the original to me. But I have to admit, I was like one of their Indiegogo backers when they first announced it coming out.
Yeah.
And so I've always liked this troupe, and I just like the characters, and I love the Farva character and his relationship with the other characters in the film, and it was just to me it was fun to see them back on screen again.
Yeah, and I do like this troupe actually. I've liked the other films you mentioned as well, the other movies you mentioned as well, and they are talented and funny, but for some reason this one just did not come together for me.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the way some comedies are, right?
Right.
And like I would say, like for me, when I first saw like Anchorman, I felt like it was like, why did people? I thought it was like, oh, this is dumb. Like I don't. And then like I saw it again, like a year later on HBO, and I was like, this is really funny.
Right,
so it's like some of the things. It really depends on what mood you're in, what how kind of like I don't see anything really different from the original that would make you think that it was like much worse. But
I think it may be because of the fact that they didn't sort of do anything new.
Didn't break any new ground. Like, that's one of the things that I was like saying. Do you? So what? How? It's kind of as a filmmaker, you're doing comedic film. How much do you want to give the audience what they want, and how much do you want to break new ground? Because a lot of the audience just wants to see the same jokes again, and some of these people. So to me, I felt that there was enough with the Canadian stuff that they broke a little bit of new ground, but there was a lot of repeated. Although to me, some of the stuff I laughed the most at was when they were pretending to be Mounties and they were pulling people over.
Right. No, that was probably
and that's probably the
sequence.
funniest stuff from the original film is when they're pulling the people over and pulling pranks on them and stuff like that.
Just wasn't enough of that though. It's the thing. It's like that was some of that was inspired bits, but that came late. Yeah. Kind of late in the movie, and some of the other stuff I didn't get this time around. I don't know why. Maybe maybe I was just in a bad mood or something. I don't know.
Maybe it was 420. Maybe you should have had some.
But I saw it before 420, so no excuse. No excuse for that. I actually saw 419.
Okay, yeah, that might be the issue.
Oh yeah, maybe I should have saw it 420.
All right. So anyway, we're running low on time on this, but so I mean, what would you give your overall grade?
Honestly, C.
C.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a B. Like I would give the original an A, and I would give this one a B. Like,
okay.
I think it's still a fun movie, but not a great movie, and it's definitely not as good as the original. So if you want to watch one, watch the original.
Watch the original if you've never seen it, for sure.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. You're like, as little as said, the better.
For me, yes.
All right. So let's move on. Let's go talk about how to write these comedies.
Yeah, let's try it. So our technique topic is comedy writing.
Comedy writing.
And, we have some thoughts on the subject, for sure.
Well, I mean, I think one of the main things that I was, wanted to hit on was the coming out of Super Troopers is like how much, well, this is specifically for sequels, but like how much do you want to rely on giving the audience what you want, what they're looking for, and how much do you want to break new ground on something? So this is like, even for writing comedy in general, this is a good question to ask yourself is like, do you want to emulate what's been done before and what people appreciate, or do you want to try to break new ground?
Well, I think the best way is to balance it, is to find the balance between the two, because I think there's merit in both. Obviously, as creatives, you want to break new ground, right? So anytime, that should be part of your desire, I think. But the fact that people have liked something, there's a lot of merit in that too. And so you want to give them at least a bit of that before you move on. And I don't think it's limited to comedy. I think this is in all types of
No,
situations.
I think it's like any type of artist. Like one of the things about like comedy, like as you get a following as a comedic writer or actor or performer or whatever you're dealing with, are you beholden to keep that structure that people enjoy going? It's like the same thing even with a musical artist. You could be like, I really liked your last record. Why did you have to go and do something completely different? Like,
oh yes, the age old conundrum. And then I think the smart people give them some of what they like, and then break new ground as well, and bring people along their journey. And some people are a little arrogant about, I don't care what you liked before. I'm doing my own thing now, and deal with it. You know what I mean? And I think that's not the greatest approach.
In some ways, yeah, I agree. I personally, I feel I like to be like, I like it when people try to do new things, but I also like to feel the comfort of like knowing what I'm getting into. Like, and one of the things I will say about like Donald Glover with Atlanta, but also with his music, with Childish Gambino, like because the internet's like, I love that album, but then his most recent album that he came out with is completely different. It's like not even a rap album to me.
Wow. Okay.
It's more like, I don't know what you call it, but the style of music is completely different. So to me, that turned me off. But then a show like Atlanta, where, in the first season you kind of get to know the characters and stuff like that. But then they have they throw in the things like the one episode where they did the interview where Mary Kraft was on. That was like completely out of left field, but it was awesome because it was related to the character. And then they did like that one episode this year where it was I can't remember the character's name, but the
Teddy Parker
episode, which is just like totally different. Oh yeah. But I think that they've earned enough confidence with this to like take us along on that ride.
Yeah, I think. Definitely. I think that's true. I think they've established it, and I think what they also do is come back to the cores again. Yeah. Like so, for instance, you go do a Teddy Parker episode, which incidentally, it's not just Teddy Parker. It's also my favorite character in the show, which is Darius. Yeah. Right. So you're on his journey.
Yeah. Exactly.
Conversely, I didn't like a more recent episode where we only followed Paperboy. Yeah. Right. And so it's like,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that So how much do you give? How much?
Right. But it's a balancing act, and kudos for them for trying new things a lot too.
But that's like, we're talking about like people that have already kind of established like creative things. But like to me, some things I want to impart when we talk about this topic is, for people that are trying to start out, who haven't who's just like, hey, I want to write a comedy script or whatever. One of the things that I want to point out is that it's really important to kind of find your style.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
You need to know, you can't just like jump from style to style. You really need to know what your style is. And it's something that I don't think can be taught.
Right.
You just have to know what you enjoy.
I mean, there's certain aspects that can be taught in a sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can sharpen somebody's skills at it, I think. I think the great comedians also study a lot. The comedy people study a lot of comedy, and then I think ultimately you're right. What it has to be is your own style, because if could you imagine, you can imagine like somebody like Kevin Hart trying to be Jerry Seinfeld, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not going to work because it's inauthentic, and I think that's comedy, just like other art, is better when it's authentic, or at least the audience feels it's authentic.
Well, and that kind of brings me to another point that I wanted to bring up, is that the feeling of authenticity, not just based off of what you're writing and the style that you're choosing, but also building the world that your characters live in. I think it needs to be, you need to have a reality that you build around your characters to make them feel sympathetic to no matter what's going on in your comedy. And it can be the most unrealistic world ever, as long as you stick to your rules of your reality and you build the world around those rules, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that keeps it authentic.
Well, that's why to me, Airplane and Airplane 2 and Hot Shots work,
Mm-hmm.
whereas some of these scary movie 17s and
because
vampire movies.
it's an example of someone who thinks they can just roadmap something out.
Yeah.
And comedy is way more than some kind of roadmap or paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that really has to be, worked on. And like we just talked about, it has to be sort of or organic, not just like.
And you have to feel something for the characters,
Right.
even if they're not like I said, like in the Airplane movies. Say what you will about you still have a feeling. If you still follow the Ted Stryker character.
Sure, absolutely.
You still have emotional stakes. So you're not just throwing jokes off the wall. Literally, the Airplane is just jokes.
Right.
But there's still
a story
leading to a story,
and
right?
there's still a character to identify with.
And that's what I mean also about building your world and building your reality. It's just that you're telling a story in this really zany world, right? But you still have a feel for the characters. And that's like I said, like I mentioned it earlier, it's like I hate it when people do pop culture references just to say, hey, aren't I clever for making this reference to something that's popular,
right,
without putting their own spin on it.
Right.
To me, referencing something, that's not comedy.
Yeah, we've said that before. Even
Yeah.
we've talked about that in context of other things. Whereas like a pop culture reference is just a reference. It
Yeah.
doesn't make it funny just because you referenced it.
Well, that's one of the things that bugs me about like Family Guy is that, and don't get me wrong, there's some really funny stuff in Family Guy, but there's also a lot of just
reference.
Hey, let's reference this internet meme, or let's reference this something event that happens. Like, it has nothing to do with the story, and it doesn't. To me, it's like, well, that's not funny. It's like it doesn't add anything, right?
Yeah, I think and maybe it's just sort of a schizophrenic sort of approach to it. That because some of the stuff is funny, but then
But it's funny when they put the twist on it.
Correct.
It's not funny when you just reference it.
Right, and I think maybe they don't understand why it's funny when it is funny.
Yeah.
Not completely, at least.
Exactly. Yeah. And then so I mean, my other point was character and plot, they're still key to the story you're trying to tell. I mean, you're basically to me, I think you think about your script and your story and your plot as you would any type of other film. Like if you're writing a drama, like think of it as a drama and think of the dramatic stakes that you have, because people still want to, understand and relate to your main character, no matter how crazy the world is, right? They still want somebody to root for. One of the things I wanted to bring up is this quote by W.C. Fields, and I think other people quoted similar to this, but is that comedy is merely tragedy happening to somebody else.
And that's what they, that's all drama, all drama is that. Why we enjoy it is because we don't have to live it necessarily, right? And comedy is kind of to the extreme of that, is that it would be funny if it's happening to someone else.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Well, a lot of comedic roles come out of tragic figures,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, how much can you put upon your main character and still have us care for him, right?
But again, it's most effective when we can actually identify with the characters that are going through these zany situations.
I mean, it adds more stakes,
right? Right.
So, and then finally, one of the other things that if you've noticed, a lot of these comedy films that get made, and actually TV shows, is that the one thing I found very helpful is that a writing partner in comedy, as opposed to any other kind of script I've been working on, I find a writing partner to be ultimately helpful in helping to, because something that's funny to you may not be. It's a very good sounding board to talk to somebody else and say, hey, what if they did this, and then what if they did that,
and
then they could take it to the next level and say,
another level.
Yeah, that's funny, but what if we just took it did this? And
exactly. I mean, the premise could be funny, but then the other person may know how to take it in a different direction that you didn't think of that is even better. And so I think that's true, that comedy, comedy is conducive to team writing.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that's why so many comedy shows have writers' rooms where they just they just bounce jokes off of each other constantly.
Yeah, constantly.
Right? I mean, that's just some of the advice that I would like, impart on somebody who's trying to start as a comedic writer.
Right, and then again, like we mentioned at the very beginning, but this is for general screenwriting too, but especially for comedy screenwriting. Find your voice, find your comedic voice for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone who's successful has their voice. I mean, if you think about it, Kevin Hart has his voice. Eddie Murphy has his voice, mm-hmm. right? I'm trying to think. Adam Sandler,
Judd Apatow.
Judd Apatow has his voice, right? Even like Steve Carell sort of has his own voice when he's a straight ahead comedian, and they found their voice and they're using it, and of course, hopefully, they're progressing, their material, but using their voice, so it's authentic again, authentic.
All right, time for the movie game. So, for those of you that don't know how the movie game works, I'm going to explain the rules to you, so listen up, chumps.
Carefully.
So, first of all, it's basically a movie chain. One of us will name a movie, and the other one will have to name an actor, and then the other person will have to name a movie that actor was in.
And so on.
Yeah, and it keeps going until one of us can't name an actor or a movie. The only real rules are that you can't name a movie or actor twice in the same chain. Sequels are allowed, though,
right?
Which is fitting for our
topics
today.
I guess for sure.
And the first to two wins. So, and then there's also you can also challenge somebody. That's
if you don't think they know.
If you don't think they know, if they went down a rabbit hole that they might not even know the answer to, you can challenge them.
Right.
So that's it. So let's get started.
Let's get it going.
Why don't you start, Martin?
All right. How about Anchorman 2?
Anchorman 2. We'll go with Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, The Chateau.
Oh, God. Challenge.
Romany Malco.
Oh, jeez.
That was actually the first time I ever saw Romany Malco was in The Chateau. I think Paul Rudd recruited him over for 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Martin.
I'm sorry. Okay, my gosh.
It's not very entertaining when you get me that fast.
All right. But you said Paul Rudd.
String me along a little bit.
Okay.
You could have okay. All right. Well, I will bring up I'll bring up a movie then.
Okay.
Or a actor.
Okay.
You don't know which I'm going to do. Movie or an actor.
You gotta freak me out here.
Why don't we say Beer Fest.
Wow. Okay. Boy, I'm trying to think of the name of the guy I know. Because most of those guys I don't remember their name for the most part, but I think man, you may have aced me here because I can't come up with the guy's name. He's on LL Cool J's show, but gosh, what's his name?
I don't know.
It's the blonde dude.
The blonde dude. I know who you're talking about.
I'm talking about, right?
I don't know his name.
So I think you aced me.
I mean, come on. You can come up with somebody.
Jay Cassandra.
There you go. Jay Cassandra.
You're going to let me pronounce it that way?
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
All right, Jay Cassandra.
Okay. Because, we just talked about this.
Sure.
So I'm going to say Club Dread.
Ah.
They're looking at your sheet to see who else is in Broken Lizard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. This is what I'm saying. I'm not trying. I don't know hardly any of those guys except for Jay's name halfway. You know what I mean? I don't know the other people's names. So is Linda Carter in it?
Linda Carter's not in it.
Okay, so I blew it.
Bill Paxton is.
That's right.
Coconut Pete.
Yes.
Pina Colada.
Oh, yes. How can I forget that? Okay.
Which, by the way, they referenced in Super Troopers 2. He gets a phone call and his ringtone is Pina Colada.
Yes.
Okay, so we're tied 1-1.
Good job. You did good.
These haven't been very exciting chains, but
no, but you took one.
All right, your turn. For all the marbles.
For all the marbles. How about The Road to Perdition.
Okay. I'm just going to go with the obvious Tom Hanks.
Okay, Tom Hanks. That Thing You Do.
Ethan Embry.
Ethan Embry. Ethan Embry in Sweet Home Alabama.
I was going to say Chris Burns, but I'm not going to.
It's a valid answer.
Reese Witherspoon.
Reese Witherspoon. How about blah 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 blah. Reese Witherspoon. It's not like I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of movies that she's been in.
Plenty of Reese Witherspoon. You're just trying to stump me.
No, I'm trying to think of the best one I should say. A lot of them. I'm blanking on a lot of them actually. Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde. Luke Wilson.
Okay. Bottle Rocket.
Owen Wilson.
Wedding Crashers.
Isla Fisher.
Okay.
I don't know.
Isla
I know that's
Fisher.
not Isla. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Isla Fisher. Keeping Up with the Joneses.
John Hamm.
Baby Driver.
Oh, damn. What's his name? John Bernthal.
Okay, John Bernthal. The Accountant.
Ben Affleck.
Oh, all right.
I wasn't going to give you your girl.
Okay, fine. Ben Affleck's been in a few movies.
A few.
How about Paycheck?
Ooh, I think you might get me there. Paycheck. I can visualize the poster, but I can't think of anybody else in it. I'm just going to challenge you because I don't know.
Good challenge. I think I'm going to say Aaron Eckhart, which we need to verify.
Okay, we're going to verify Aaron Eckhart. Hold, please. We have a verdict. Aaron Eckhart is in Paycheck.
I knew it.
You son of a bitch, you're Martin Kelly.
That was a good chain, though.
You've won it again.
That was a good chain.
Yes. It was a good game, actually.
Yes.
2-1.
Yeah.
Good chain to end it. All right. So that's the end of our show for this month. We'll be back in May, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
If all goes well.
Yeah.
And like we said before, we really would like to get some input from you guys.
Yeah.
If you like what you hear or see, or
let us know what you think, and also share it with your friends, and share it wherever you post your favorite things.
At your local lending library. Or
Okay.
post it on the bulletin board.
That's right.
Your local Panera Bread company. There's a local community section. You can go talk about
I'd
there
love
if you
to
really
see
want
it
to.
there. That'd be great.
You can go down to the street corner and talk to Crazy Joe about it.
Let Crazy Joe know. He's been missing out.
But yeah, let us know what's going on with you as well. We'd love to hear from you. Once again, we're going to thank Eureka Failure for the music.
Absolutely. They have a new album, right?
The new album is out called Trapper Keeper. It is available on iTunes and Spotify and other musical destinations
Do it.
throughout the country.
Can I plug something too?
You can plug something.
Okay.
We still have a little bit of time.
I did a music video recently. I like directing music videos. You like directing music videos. I did one for Dirty Dollars. It's called Loud, and so it's out on Vivo, and YouTube and everywhere else. And of course, that single is out on Spotify and everywhere, and iTunes and everywhere else.
Yeah,
too.
check that out.
Definitely.
Great stuff. And then that's about it. We'll see you next month, and go watch some Atlanta films in the meantime, and we'll chat with you later. Oh, and make sure you check out CinemATL.com just for more information on what's going on in the Atlanta film and video scene.
Yes, definitely.
So that's it. Bye.